It's not like a structured environment being in the infantry or being in the Green Berets. It's all about how do you work together across a team to solve problems, and life can be chaotic, business can be chaotic, and it was a good training ground for me.
Welcome to The Path to Owning It, a podcast by Provide, powered by Fifth Third. Here, we share real stories and raw lessons from business owners who have lived them. Join us as we spotlight one entrepreneur's journey at a time, from the first spark of an idea to the pivots, challenges, and wins that shape their path. Because entrepreneurship isn't a straight line. It's personal, unpredictable, and full of lessons worth sharing. I'm your host, Corey Brown, a marketing leader at Provide with over a decade of experience supporting small business owners. Whether you're just starting out or deep in the game, this is where you'll hear the unfiltered reality of building something that matters. Like what you hear? Follow The Path to Owning It on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen. Today, I'm joined by Sean McIlroy. Sean is a West Point graduate, former U.S. Army Green Beret, and the owner of MP Copiers in Northern Virginia. After a decade of military service, Sean didn't take the traditional path into business. He discovered entrepreneurship through acquisition, spent 18 months searching for the right company, and in March 2026, bought a business that checked every box. His story is one of conviction, transition, and what it really means to bet on yourself when the path forward isn't clear. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Corey. Happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. And before we get into your story, I just really want to take a moment to say thank you for your service. The commitment it takes to do what you did for a decade is something most of us will really, truly, fully never understand. And I just want you to know it doesn't go unnoticed. And we're really honored to have you here.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Happy to have done it.
Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Before West Point, before the military, before entrepreneurship, who was Sean McIlroy and what did you think your life was going to look like?
Well, I think in fifth grade, I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. Growing up, my life revolved heavily around sports, whether it's basketball or baseball. My dad played at the University of Tulsa for basketball. I was naturally better at baseball. So as high school went on, I didn't really have a huge focus on academics or anything like that. I was just focused on baseball. And my senior year, I had some traction for some decent sized programs, but I was a better pitcher. And then I messed up my elbow. And so most of the colleges that I had offers from were Ivy Leagues, and then West Point came in. And my parents were school teachers. And so West Point was free. Went up and visited and immediately kind of fell in love with the service, but also the baseball team was a bunch of great guys. And that's kind of how I ended up. Fun fact is I was the last person in the class of 2013 accepted to West Point because I actually visited for the first time after spring break of my senior year, where the process to get in usually for most people starts early junior high school. So things really kind of just fortunately worked out for me, thanks to baseball.
Yeah, sounds like it. West Point, like you said, is a unique place, especially for someone who arrives on a baseball offer and doesn't necessarily have that military calling. How did that experience affect you?
Yeah, it was life-changing. So arrived very focused on baseball. Immediately you kind of get refocused though as you get there and realize the experience is about to be a whole lot more than the sport that you think you're playing. And so I was there from 2009 to 2013, and probably the most consequential experiences I had occurred during lunch. Breakfast and lunch at the academy is a kind of Harry Potter type mess hall experience where everyone across, all 4,000 students in the Corps Cadets eats at the same time. And during lunch, they'll make big announcements. And one of those announcements would be the death of a service member. And so that happened about 30 times while I was there. And during that time, everyone's quiet. And then you sing the alma mater. But it made me feel stuck. What am I doing in school? Baseball is great, but it really focused me for hey, when I get out, I'm going to do the Army as hard as I can because that's what I should do. And that's what, the people that we've lost deserve. And the people that are serving right now, deserve as well.
Absolutely. Like you said, you went on to serve as an infantry officer in Europe during a pretty consequential moment, Russia's invasion of Crimea, and later became a Green Beret. What did a decade of that kind of service really teach you about yourself, would you say?
I think it just taught me that I'm pretty good at handling chaos. It's not like a structured environment being in the infantry or being in the Green Berets. It's chaotic. It's a lot of just random things that get thrown at you. And it's all about how do you work together across a team to kind of solve problems and work across teams to find solutions. And so Europe was interesting because we thought we were going to go to Afghanistan. Obviously, Russia invades. I was stationed in Italy. And so us being close to Eastern Europe, that's what we focused on. But there wasn't like Afghanistan where we've been there 20 years. Like we were setting everything up. So I was working across embassies. It was chaotic. But it was a great experience because life can be chaotic, business can be chaotic. And it was a good training ground for me.
Yeah, I bet. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But after 10 years, you've told me before you had a few knee surgeries, an upcoming marriage, you decided to leave. How did you even begin to separate that identity from something that was so defining?
Yeah, I think it's person to person. The transition from the military is very hard for a lot of people. It was hard for me. But I will say, like, even on my best days of being a Green Beret, whether I was jumping out of planes or doing whatever is awesome, it still wasn't my identity. Like, I didn't become a Green Beret because I wanted people to think like, wow, he's cool. That might have been a small part of it. You get satisfaction out of that, but that was not why I did it. So for me, the transition didn't feel as difficult because I knew I was going to have to rebuild myself. I was going to have to not necessarily start from zero, but I was going to have to take the skills that I had learned and reapply them in a new environment. So I think just that general focus. And I think I learned that from a lot of mentors and people ahead of me that I really admired. And I saw that kind of characteristic and that humility. And that's kind of what I always try to emulate.
And I know you told me you had a plan. You're going to use the GI Bill, go to business school. A friend had mentioned the idea of ETA or entrepreneurship through acquisition, and that kind of changed everything. What did he say that changed your direction?
I think he just told me you can buy a small business and run it and make it a big business. And I was like, what? You can do that? And so he told me about it, and I started listening to all the podcasts, read all the usual books that you hear about. And it kind of just hit me that this is the path that I want to do. Like the autonomy, the ownership, the leadership. So a couple of mentors had told me it's easy to get out and try to become like really good at owning a spreadsheet or all these things. But they had all come to the realizations like you get paid for performing to your strengths, not trying to round out your weaknesses in the business world. And so I'm not saying I'm just like disregarding my weaknesses, but I knew I wanted to do something that played to my strengths. And it seemed like ETA was a route for that.
And growing up thinking you're going to become a baseball player to now this realization, had you never had any sort of entrepreneurship kind of spirit before, or like this idea that you were going to be a business owner one day?
No, my parents were school teachers and they put a high focus on education. And my mom started a tutoring company, but it was just herself. So while it was entrepreneurship, it was more like a side hustle that she did really well with, but it was never really a thought. But I think after being in the military and especially the Green Berets where you have more autonomy, there's just way more opportunities where you really have to go out on a ledge and kind of expose your weaknesses and like get comfortable going into uncomfortable places. Like my mindset over time kind of warped to where this is like, it's what I want to do. It's exciting. And that was kind of the path.
Yeah. I mean, you've even previously described ETA to me as the closest thing to special forces in the business world. I found that to be like a really striking comparison. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, I think in the military or like in special operation, really in any sort of combat arms, there is always the possibility of something going wrong. You could jump out of an airplane and have a equipment failure. You could be doing a mission and a stray bullet hits you. It was just dire, but that's realistic. However, like we're not, the Army, you're not trained to just like love risk. You're trained to mitigate risk. And so that's what I did for 10 years was like look at high risk problem sets and figure out how to make them less risky. And when you do that, you can often find opportunity. And so I think it's very similar to ETA because it is high risk. Like you could get hit with COVID. You could get hit with unexpected tariffs, but there are industries that you can buy in that could mitigate that kind of downside, right? So I saw a lot of similarities in that. Now, buying a printer and copy servicing company doesn't sound super exciting, but when you have an SBA, like personal guarantee on the line, like it can get pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, did you ever consider any other route to business ownership, like starting your own company as opposed to buying an existing one?
I will say during the search I did, because the search is a grind and you see some of these companies that people have, made a lot. But talking to a few owners that weren't ready to sell but, kind of became mentors. The one thing they always said is skip the first 10 years, skip the first 10 years. It's a slog. And so I did think about it just because searching is really hard. And there was times that you thought you were close or you had no idea you were getting close. So I would see these and I'd think about it. But before searching, I never really thought of, because I didn't have a great idea. I don't love startups. I don't love the venture world. Sometimes it just seems too nebulous. And maybe that's me just not being smart enough I just know my strengths and it's not there. I looked at private equity operations, but that's not really ownership either. So yeah, I guess once I heard ETA, it was ETA or bust.
Well, Sean, thank you for sharing your story with us so far. And up to this point, we've talked about Sean's journey from Oklahoma to West Point through a decade of military service and into the world of ETA. After the break, I want to get into the search itself, what it really looks like to spend 18 months looking for the right business, and what life has looked like since closing the deal on his business. More with Sean McIlroy right after this. Are you fresh out of school with big dreams and ambition to achieve them? Or is your current business bursting at the seams and it's time to expand your legacy? If you tend to challenge the status quo and shoot for the moon, Provide's SBA loan may be for you. Our dedicated team of small business experts will work with you to make your ownership dreams, no matter how big, a reality. To get started, visit getprovide.com to see how our tech-enabled small business financing and banking can work for you. Again, that's getprovide.com for when your aspirations of business ownership exceed traditional limits. I'm Corey Brown, and this is Provide's The Path to Owning It podcast. We're back with Sean McIlroy. Before the break, we talked about Sean's military background and what led him to entrepreneurship through acquisition. Now I want to get into the search, the acquisition, and what ownership has meant for his life since. Sean, you mentioned before break about the hunt, right? 18 months, really long time to search for something without really knowing if you're getting any closer or not. What does that kind of uncertainty do to a person, and how did you stay determined through it?
Yeah, it is challenging. It is much more challenging than I thought it was going to be. Searching, I compare it to a lot of people from the military. It's like an exercise in land nav. In the military, we use land navigation as like to assess people's, competence and everything like that. But you don't have anything until you find your point. So you could get lucky, you could get unlucky. And that's kind of how searching is. And it's one thing to talk about it, but then when you go through it and you spend time and you're kind of uncertain for an extended period of time, it becomes very, very hard. And when you first start searching, you have this like sense of optimism. You're like, I'm going to find something. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. And then eventually it just starts getting chiseled away. You've got to know why you're doing it or else it would get really hard. And I always knew why I was doing it. So like, didn't make it any easier, but at least I kind of had my North Star that I was like, hey, I'm doing this for 24 months. I'll reassess at 24 months, but I'm going to do it this specific way for this long because that's the time period that it typically takes.
Yeah. What was your why?
My why was I wanted autonomy. I wanted a career where I could be there for my kids and be there for my family, whether, maybe I have to sacrifice a little bit in the short term. I wanted that possibility. And so that was my why. It was, hey, this is the path where I can have maximum autonomy over my life and provide for my family.
That's great. Can you share what you were looking for and how did you know when you found it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of laugh. On my website, it was B2B services company, greater than 15% EBITDA margins, no customer concentration, no cyclicality, and then low share of wallet. And I was looking across different types of businesses, and I liked the kind of rental space and I liked the services space. And I think that's how I found the company that I ended up buying, which was MP Copiers. And when I sat down with the owner and he started telling me about the business, how they have like over 800 customers, most are in 3 to 5 year contracts, most revenue service based. Like it just kind of clicked. And it's easy to like when you're searching to, oh, I want to buy HVAC because everyone's talking about that. Or, oh, I want to buy like niche calibration because everyone's talking about that. In reality, it's if you buy one of those, you're going to overpay or you're going to be in a different buy box than someone else, so it's having what you're looking for and then just being open to if something meets that criteria, regardless of whether it has the like sexiness behind it, like being open to that opportunity.
Right. Because like you said, on the surface, a copier service company may not sound like the most glamorous acquisition. What was it that really made the case for why it was right for you?
Yeah, I had a great relationship with the owner. He had a great reputation in the county. He built the business like a grassroots campaign. The website was not really there. The Google profile was not there. The last like Facebook post was years ago, but he'd been at all the chamber events and he just built it from the ground up. And so, yeah, once I saw like the financials and looked through that, hey, there wasn't any customer concentration. Hey, the risk is pretty low. And then I started, if you're in over 800 offices across like the DMV, which is a great area to be in business to business services, because we have just probably the densest amount of businesses in the area, like in the country, there's other services you can sell. And so they had started the IT services before I got there, and they have like 6 clients. So we haven't really expanded that way, but like we have enough momentum and we can do everything. And so it just seemed like a great opportunity. And so I tell some of my friends, I'm like, we're kind of like a Trojan horse. Like you think, hey, we're just a little copier service company, but we do a lot more. And so that's the exciting part, is kind of building towards the sales and showing everyone that we can do more and providing more for the customers that we do have.
Yeah, that's great. I know it's new, but is there anything that's surprised you the most so far?
This sounds terrible, but it has not been super stressful yet, which I've talked to a number of my friends that were like, oh, the first 30 days was super stressful. And my first 30 days was not super stressful. And I think that is because the recurring revenue is there and the owner wasn't super involved in the business. And that was another thing I'd noticed. Like I probably met him 6 or 7 months before the business closed. And the amount of time that he was actually in the DMV he was down in South Carolina or like traveling most of the time. And so in the first week, I was just shocked. Like the business was just kind of humming, like the back office was communicating down with the service side. And so I wasn't required to really do anything the first week except learn. And so now I'm finding where my value is and like we're pushing it forward. But that was a surprise. I was expecting to find some surprises and I was pleasantly surprised that I did not.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed that continues for you.
Yeah. I mean, that was 1 month in,
Right. Yeah.
There's plenty of time. Plenty of time.
Exactly. As we mentioned, you went from leading special force missions to now managing service agreements, phone systems, the business. What's that transition actually felt like day to day for you?
Yeah, I'd say the day to day can be a little boring.
Yeah, I would think so, right? I'm sitting here thinking.
Yeah, you
exactly
can't make these. I think when I first came in, I thought, okay, we're going to do all these things. And in business, you can't turn the ship in one day. It's a bunch of like get 1% better every day. And that's what I'm kind of embracing. It's like, I know where I'm going. I know where we're taking this company, but it's little steps. And so it's not super exciting. It's just, hey, today I did these things that's going to get me a little bit closer to objective X.
Sure. Is there anything that surprised you about maybe habits you had to unlearn or maybe learn regarding your leadership style now that you own a business?
Yeah, I think the old owner had a really good point. My seller, he had a really good point. He's like, because he was military as well. And he told me one thing you have to understand about this space is not everyone is built like you are. Some people just don't want to keep progressing. Some people love getting to a certain point and they don't want to go anymore. They like exactly where they are. They know exactly what they do from 9 to 5. And that's not necessarily me. Like I'm someone that likes to climb mountains. So if I get to the top of the mountain, I get a little bored and I'm like, okay, let's find something bigger. Like what's better? So I think, yeah, that's been a really good point because that is not something I expected, but it is something I'm aware of now and I think is good to know.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I'm curious if you're willing to talk finances a little bit. Military service, as you were mentioning, provides a lot of stability, salary, housing, healthcare. What did it feel like to trade that in?
Well, I'm fortunate because the biggest financial decision you can ever make is who you marry. And so my wife has a great job in DC. So that provided us some financial support during the search. I also, after my third knee surgery, ended up getting medically retired from the military. So that covered our healthcare costs and then gives me a small stipend. So I am very fortunate to have had like enough gas in the tank for the search. Now we couldn't go like on a ton of vacations and there were certainly sacrifices we had to make. But from a search perspective, I was okay. And that's why I think a lot of people from the military are pretty, because a lot of them get out with disability or they have health care or like VA support. So it's financially a good path and you don't have super high lifestyle expenses at this point.
Sure, sure. I know it's new, but do you mind sharing what ownership has changed about your financial picture or where you see it changing maybe in the next several months to a year?
Yeah. So I ended up acquiring 100% of this company and I had to kind of make a decision because my TSP, I rolled into my Roth and I made my TSP, like I saved a lot while I was in the military. And so I went, I think I used about half of my Roth. So it was kind of like a gamble with like, hey, this is my retirement, but I could take it out without a tax penalty. So really we threw everything into this company. And the financial piece that's changed is I see the bank account going up and I see the numbers looking good, but it doesn't feel like mine, if that makes sense. Like it feels like something I'm taking care of and I'm like stewarding because I'm just thinking about potential downside scenarios. So everything at this point doesn't feel any different. It is nice. Like unfortunately our dog got sick and we went to we're able to provide some more treatments and it's not as like, it would have been a lot worse 6 months ago, but we have financial stability now, but I'm still new enough that it doesn't feel like mine. And I don't want it to feel like mine for years. Like I want to be hungry and I want to like,
yeah, I get that. I'm curious if there's like a certain habit or metric regarding finances that you pay close attention to that maybe others could learn something from.
Yeah, I think margins are important. Someone described to me like margins are representative of like the true value you're offering. Because if someone will pay that, like it's just more valuable. And it gets really tough if the margins are thin, if anything goes wrong. So I thought margins are really important. And then the other stuff is not like as super financial. It's just once you get in the seat, not having a customer concentration, I can't express how nice that is because I can't run off a cliff in one day. I could over time if I'm not careful, but no one's going to call me and crater my business today.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. Curious for someone listening who is standing at their own transition point, maybe that's leaving a career, maybe just feeling a little bit stuck and wondering whether ownership is the answer. What do you want them to hear from your story?
I think it is an incredible path. And I think you have to know the bad. The good is easy to wrap your head around, but you have to know why you're doing it and you have to know it's going to be super challenging. I've seen a lot of my peers that are searching, the ones that are doing it because they think it's like a private equity play or they think it's the cool thing to do. Month 14, they haven't acquired and they're having like mental health challenges because it is really, really hard. I would say go for it. Like if you know it's for you, like nothing's stopping you. You don't need an MBA for a self-funded deal. All you need is grit and the ability to work with people.
Yeah. Is there one step that they can take maybe in the next 30 days to get them prepared for this path?
I started with podcasts. So listen to this podcast.
There you go.
I think they're great because it's an easy way to, like the books are good. Start with the Harvard Business one, I think is good. It takes you through the fundamentals, but I wouldn't read that many of the books. I think the podcasts are great because you're hearing so many different industries, so many different people. You can do them while you're driving. Yeah, podcasts, and then reach out to the people on the podcast. I'll leave my info if people want to reach out. I'm more than happy to take a call because a lot of people took calls for me. That's what I'd leave people with is you have to have probably 3 people that you can text or call and just ask random questions that have a little bit of experience in this space. And so find a mentor, and like mentorship's weird. You can't just take. You have to find a way to like provide value. But if you can get 3 mentors in the space, you're dangerous. You can do whatever you need.
Okay. Well, you offered. So if somebody out there needs copier services, happy to plug your brand new business. How can they reach you?
LinkedIn's probably the best. Sean McIlroy, it's spelled like the golfer, McIlroy. MP Copiers. You should find me pretty easy and just, send me a request and a message, and happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, Sean, thanks for being here and for sharing what it really looks like to rebuild an identity around something new and to do it with the same conviction that really defined your military career. We appreciate your time, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to The Path to Owning It. No two journeys look the same, but everyone is full of real moments, raw lessons, and stories worth sharing. We hope today's episode gave you something to take with you on your own path. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more listeners find these stories. Know an entrepreneur whose journey we should feature? Let us know in the comments or reach out on social. The Path to Owning It is brought to you by the team at Provide, powered by Fifth Third, where we back small business owners like you. If you're ready to bet on yourself, head to getprovide.com to explore tools, resources, and financing and banking options crafted to help you build your legacy. This show is produced by PodCamp Media, branded podcast production for businesses, podcampmedia.com. Producer Dusty Weiss, editor Matt Covarrubias. For Provide, I'm Corey Brown. And to every small business owner out there, your story matters. Keep writing it.
Provide is a division of Fifth Third Bank, National Association. All opinions expressed by the participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Provide, its affiliates, or Fifth Third Bank. The participants' opinions are based on information they consider reliable, but neither Provide, its affiliates, nor Fifth Third Bank warrant its completeness or accuracy and should not be relied upon as such. This content is for informational purposes and does not constitute the rendering of legal, accounting, tax, or investment advice or other professional services by Provide or any of its affiliates. Please consult with appropriate professionals related to your individual circumstances. All lending is subject to review and approval.